Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining. I'm just super excited to have everybody here. Hey, how y'all doing? Make sure y'all talking to me in the comments so that we can keep this conversation going. Welcome to JJ 365, where we're going to chit chat about this thing, one or the other, and just have a really good time and talk about some truths, make sure that we're not leaving out any details to our story so that we can ask questions, so that we can clarify, so that we can just, make things happen. The Bible talks about iron sharpening iron. So, the truth, sometimes it hurts. It's not going to really feel good, but it will definitely set you free, especially if that's what you desire, especially if that's what you want out of life. So sometimes somebody has to get down with the nitty gritty and talk about the things that hurt in order for the healing to begin. So welcome to the show. This is my very first podcast, and I'm super excited to be here. I am super nervous. But I'm amongst friends, and so we're going to get busy and we're going to get this done. I want to thank God for this opportunity, for Him allowing me to be able to come on and share some time with you. I want to thank God for my arrows. They have been amazing. They have helped their mom get the lighting together, get the verbiage together. Get the music together, get the flyers together, get the word out. They've been helping me with social media. And I've been giving them a run for their money because I'm kind of on the older side and I don't know all the ins and outs, but they have been super, super amazing. Thank you, Young Arrows. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, Facebook friends, YouTube friends. Thank you for tuning in. And this is going to be live, so might make some mistakes, might stumble over some words, but that's part of the journey. That's part of the process. We're going to have conversations this afternoon or this evening about any issues, concerns, victories. That's kind of like the format of what we're going to do. Tonight is going to be a little different from what I really want to do going forward because the title of this episode is called The Empty Chair. And as you can see, no one is sitting beside me. And so the conversation is going to be more like a monologue tonight because of the empty chair. But I want you to be able to put some comments in, and I want to be able to respond to your concerns, respond to your questions, so that we can still keep this conversation going. And like I said before, the future episodes, we will have participants that'll be on the screen so you can see them, and they'll be able to verbally have that conversation. You'll always be able to type in your comments, type in your questions, type in your concerns. Always, if you don't want to be a participant, if you don't want to be on camera, we can always conversate that way. What I would like for you to do real quickly, because I want to make sure that everything is working right, if you can tell me what are some of the things that you can think of as to why we don't share the real deal. Could it be shame? Could it be distractions? Could it be, you just don't have the fortitude to pull yourself up and talk about it. You're waiting on somebody to ask. What are some of the things that's causing you not to share your journey? Because the devil is busy. He is absolutely busy trying to make you think that your situation is the only situation, and that your situation can't be fixed, and that your situation can't change. And it can. It really can. And a lot of it begins with us sharing our stories, because we drop little nuggets here and there to let people know things that they didn't really know could happen. So I'm a numbers girl, right? So if you ask me about some numbers, I can crunch some numbers. And so, but I have people in my circle that are super creative. They can come into an empty space and they can turn it and make it so beautiful. Well, since they're my friend, I can bring them in, and they can come in and they can take my empty space and just turn it around and make it wonderful. Those are the kind of friends that I need in my life, so that I don't have to do everything. It's not all about me. It's not me taking on everything, doing everything, being there, being superwoman, doing it all, because you will experience burnout real quick, real fast, and in a hurry if you do that. One of the things that I want to do is bring back the old fashioned, when your mom and dad, when your mom especially with their girlfriends would talk and they give you that eye, and you knew that you had been seen, and so you needed to vacate the building because they were about to get down and have some grown folk conversations. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to talk about some tough things tonight, and I really want your participation. This evening, let me give you a few housekeeping things that you need to remember as we dive in. You can type your comments in the section so that we can see them, and we'll bring them up. If I miss them, Deontay will bring it to my attention, bring it back up, pop it on the screen so we can come back to it. We're going to also give you an opportunity just to ask whatever questions that you want to. I'm going to treat you like you're one of my close friends. And like some of my close friends, I see them on here, and they know sometimes we can get into some heated conversations. We don't always agree. We don't always say things nicely. We're not always kind, and sometimes, I'm the cusser in my friend groups. So I'm the one that kind of like lets some things kind of roll off my tongue that I probably shouldn't be rolling off, but at the time it kind of flows with the conversation, and I just be real. I'm known for being straight, being direct, and that's kind of like my MO. But I have some very soft-spoken friends. I have some very friends that kind of beat around the bush a lot, and I kind of like try to bring them back into the fold so we can get back to the task at hand. So let's just jump right into it. The empty chair. My husband died November 28th, 2021. It was sudden. It was quick. I wasn't prepared. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. We're back. Sorry about that. We had internet difficulties, but we're back online and we're ready to go. Are we ready to go?
We're ready to go.
We're ready to go. So my husband, back to my husband. When he passed, I was devastated, as most of us are when we lose a loved one, someone that is close to us. It is very, very difficult to deal with. One of the things that I've realized with this grief process is that it comes in stages. For example, the death, that's kind of like the wedding ceremony. And a lot of saints refer to it as a celebration of life. That's the event. The death is the thing that happened. Grief then becomes the process. That's the journey to learn how to live with the process. Can you guys hear me? Can somebody give me a thumbs up? Can everybody hear me? Because I'm seeing on the screen where it says no sound. I hope that's not me. I hope that's just you and you can get that fixed. Thumbs up? Okay, great, 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 great. So when I'm talking about grief, I'm talking about what happens after death, because that's the long road. That's when my journey is not necessarily yours, because we all process death differently. One of the things that I want to talk about tonight is some of the things that I wish that I had really known about, some things that I wasn't prepared for when my husband passed. And I think that it would have been very beneficial for me, for example, like pulling all our financial paperwork together. I didn't have everything in one spot. I was trying to find the deed to the home, because you have to do some things when death happens to make sure that the proper paperwork is documented. Those are the kind of things that I just kind of missed. I was just kind of floating. And even though I was a numbers person, we hadn't talked about that. In fact, one of the things that we had planned on doing that Christmas was actually talking to our children about what we wanted the end of life to look like. But we didn't make it there because he died right after Thanksgiving. So that's one of the things that just kind of caught us off guard, caught me off guard, because he was home with Jesus and I was left behind to figure things out. And that's a real difficult kind of problem that really can hurt a situation and make a widow kind of lose it, because instantly within a week we went from a 2-family income to a 1-family income. And that's difficult because the bill man still comes. The bill man is still looking for that mortgage payment, still looking for that car payment. We still have the electricity and groceries that we have to do. We still had a child that was in college, so tuition was still due. All those things are still on the table. And when you don't plan for death, then you're planning to make your life a little bit more difficult when that actually happens. Because we all know that we're going to go one day. And if it wasn't me, then it was him. And sometimes, in some cases, some children lose both parents at the same time because of a car wreck. So it is important that you have your wills together. It is important that you have the person that is going to step in and take care of your children if you have young children, that they know where everything is, that they understand, and they agree to take on that role, because it's not something to be taken lightly. And a lot of us don't plan that way, and we need to be able to take care of that. Death is like a thief. It comes in the middle of the night in your life, and it can take everything away from you. It can take all of your essence. It can take all of your glory, the sadness, the loneliness, the adjustment. It's just difficult. It's just really, really hard. And there's just no two ways about it. But some things that we can do to try to make it a little bit better is to try to prepare ourselves. That's not just with money, but that's also with emotions. It's about being kind. It's about accepting what you actually have. We don't always get along. My husband and I did not always get along. We had some real nasty and ugly arguments. There were times when I wanted to walk. There were times when he wanted to walk. And we can't act as if when someone dies that they all of a sudden become a saint. And a lot of times people want to do that. People say, oh, don't talk ill of the dead, or that person is not here to defend yourself. Well, let me ask you something. When you were chit-chatting about that person while they were alive, did it matter then? Was it real then? Did it hurt then? And if all of those things, and if that answer to that is yes, then it's still going to hurt when they're gone. That doesn't mean that they were perfect just because they're now with Jesus. They're in a perfect state now. They know full well what was going on, and they're having conversations with the Father, and they know and they understand. But we're still here on the other side, and we still have to deal with the hurt. We still have to deal with the pain. We still have to deal with the unforgiveness, the resentment, the good times, the happy times, the great memories. We have to deal with all of that. And sometimes family members stop talking to each other. Sometimes people haven't talked to each other for years. And then when that person dies, there is no turning back. There is no opportunity to come back and say, I'm sorry, or you hurt me. That was very hurtful, and that took a piece of me away. And we have to be able to be honest and be true about what we're doing and how to learn how to accept each other. Because see, there are some things about me that I know that my husband wanted me to change that I was very comfortable with, that I actually enjoyed, and that I wasn't going to change just because he didn't like it. One of those things was drinking. My husband was not a drinker. He did not drink wine. He did not drink hard liquor at all. But I did tonight. I have apple juice, y'all. But I will drink some wine. I will drink an amaretto sour. I definitely will. I don't drink to get drunk, but I will drink. And those are one of the things that was a serious issue for us in our marriage that we had to work through to be able to accept each other how we are. And we don't always do that because we like what we like and we want what we want. And that's okay. But when someone dies and we left with unresolved issues, then our heart gets burdened. I can remember the first book that I wrote. It's called Journaling the Journey. And in this book, I wrote about my father. My father died suddenly. He had a heart attack while he was driving and he hit a tree. He died the Friday before Father's Day. That was very, very traumatic. That was very, very sudden and unexpected. And I can remember writing, and it was 3 years after his death. The first 2 years, I don't remember, honestly. I was so broken. There were people who reached out to me, but I shut down. I had nothing for anybody. My children were young. They were 1, 3, 4, and 6. That was pretty young. I had things to keep me busy, but I really don't remember about 2 years after he died. I was in a fog. I was messed up. I was messed up from the floor up. But one of the things that I wrote about, and I want to take a minute and read out of this book to you what I wrote about my dad. Anguish and pain, as well as happiness and joy, come and go in all of our lives. It's something about that pain that lingers on for what seems like eternity. My dad died in a car accident the Friday before Father's Day. Today is January the 10th, which was his birthday, and I decided to pen this note. By the end of the day, I became very melancholy. I had on the Fantasia CD, and subconsciously, I had hit repeat for the song, You Are Always on My Mind. Something about the beat just soothed my soul. I played it again and again, and it finally hit me as I hummed the chords, You Are Always on My Mind, that I was deeply in thought about my dad. As time goes on, and I'm skipping down to the bottom, it becomes a private matter. For me, it did anyway. I laugh to myself and sometimes out loud as I remember the life of my dad. I was thankful that the sting was not as painful anymore. That was 3 years later, and it was very, very difficult. I lost some friends, I lost some relationships because I didn't know how to grieve very well. I didn't know what I was doing. I had never taken a class. I had taken financial counseling classes. I had taken biblical counseling classes. I had taken marriage counseling tables classes. I had actually studied the Bible for a year, but I never took a class about grief. I had never really talked to anybody about how it felt to lose someone that you incredibly love. For me, it made heaven for real, because there was someone there now that I just knew that I wanted to see again. In honor of my husband, I am selling Journaling the Journal and Bridges of Resilience, Empowered Wills, which is my second book that I did a collaboration with my 13 sorors of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And we came together because we had something other than the blue and white in common. We had lost our partners. And we decided to come along and talk about our vastly different journeys and lifestyles as we were moving forward. And I want to, in honor of him, because his birthday is this Saturday, April the 6th. If he were here, he would be 62 years old. And in honor of him, I will be having these books for sale, 2 for 15. I mean, 2 for 30, not 15, 2 for 30. You can get 2 Journaling the Journeys. You can get 1 of each. You can get 2 Bridges of Resilience if you like. And all you have to do is email me at missjenwilson@gmail.com, and we can get that ready to go. One of the things that I prayed for, which brought me out of that 3-year slum with my dad, is I asked God if he would help me heal, that I would share whatever story I needed to share, and I would help anyone that was grieving, and that if they wanted to talk about it, I would be there to talk. And that I hope that I would be a much better person going through the grief process. That was my goal, that was my desire when my husband passed. is for me to be able to go through that grief process and to grow. Because grief is patient. And you might think that grief is kind, but it's not. It's patient. It'll wait for you. It'll set you up. It'll come out. Somebody won't even know that you're coming for. And you'll be ready with your boxing gloves on. You'll be ready to make some things happen. And I see on the screen that somebody says, but your husband was a grief expert. Didn't that offer help after your dad passed? No, it did not. It did not. You would think that it would have, but it didn't. It did not help me because I shut down. I was not ready to receive any of the help. I was not ready to open my arms up to healing and to learn how to love. I should have paid attention. I should have been better prepared, but I wasn't. I wasn't. I was just hurt. I wanted my daddy, and nothing that he could have said. And honestly, I don't even know what he said to me. I don't know if he tried to give me words of encouragement because I had definitely left the building. My heart, my mind, my soul, everything. It was just taken away from me. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that death was paying me a visit. I didn't want to receive that death was paying me a visit. You would think that I would have been better prepared, but I wasn't. But this time around, when he died, I was better prepared, but I wasn't prepared, if that makes any sense. I was prepared to go through the emotional stress and strain of him not being here, because keep in mind, when my father died, I had never been on this earth without him. But I had lived 20 years before I met Mr. Tony Wilson. So I kind of knew how to maneuver life without him. For my children, it probably was similar to what it was when I lost my dad, because they had never really lost someone that was really, really close to them. This was their first experience with death. And it was their father, just like it was for me. So we had something in common, and it was different all at the same time, but it was still painful for them just as bad. Grief is tough. Does it mean that you have to go through it by yourself? Absolutely not. There are counselors, and everybody's not really built for some type of counseling. You have to find the right type of counseling to be able to get the help. When my father passed, I can't recall if I went to counseling. I do believe that one of my sisters went to the church and received some grief counseling. And I hope that that helped her. With my husband, I went to 3 different counselors. I did group counseling. I did one-on-one counseling, and then someone told me about Grief Share. And Grief Share, if you remember Promise Keepers, it's kind of set up like that. You meet online. Well, we met online because of COVID. So we met online, which was very helpful to me because I really wasn't going out a lot. So that was really, really helpful to me for it to be online. I really enjoyed the videos because the videos were people talking about their situation. Some people talked about they had had arguments with people just before they died. They weren't on their terms. They were just authentic. You can hear the realness of what their struggle was, and they didn't have a problem saying they were upset, they were mad at God, they were questioning God. Why should this happen? I mean, how can this happen? And those are things that really and truly are things that go through probably all of our minds at some time, at some point. We're never quite ready to let people go. Even when people are 100, we still miss them when they leave because they've been around our entire lives. And so it matters. It matters when they say, when you hear people say, it matters that you were born, it matters that you lived, it matters that we have a relationship. This is some of the fallout as a result of that. Because when that person is gone and you know that they cannot come back, that's a hard pill to swallow and even more difficult to digest. One of the things that I realized when my husband passed, and I put this in the book, I started this book out, this chapter that I'm in, and I say, I'm a 1,000-piece grief puzzle with no picture to guide me. I am examining each piece to determine where it belongs. I am currently working on the board. Because my life, I had known Tony longer than I hadn't. We had been married for 32 years. We dated, we were engaged, we knew each other. So I've probably known him for about 35 years. That's a long time to be with somebody. And then in an instant, they're gone. That takes time to digest. That takes time to process. It's very hard. It's very difficult to get up and pick those pieces up. I don't know, have you ever seen the series Monk? And there was one episode where somebody had died or something had happened. He was going through all the grief steps and he was going through them just like one behind the other, one behind the other. That's the way I felt. I get mad, get angry, get sad, get denied. What negotiate, bargain? What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And just kind of like just walk. I was a hazard to the streets because I would come to myself and I would be home, but I couldn't remember really driving. That's wild and crazy, but that's how my mind was moving. That's how crazy things were for me. And this was the second time around, but I wanted to do better. I honestly don't know how anybody can get through grief without Jesus. I honestly don't know. I know that I could not have survived. I could not have picked myself up and started to thrive if it wasn't for God. It is so hard. It is so difficult to pick your life up and to move forward. How old was I when my father died? I was in my 30s. I was in my 30s because when I celebrated my 40th birthday, he was not here. So I was maybe 38, 37, 38. And I think my youngest brothers were in their 20s, late 20s, maybe. So my father died when he was 65. And that was in 2000, was it 2001? I think it was 2001. So I was in my 30s, my late 30s. How do I keep their memories alive in present day? One of the things that I do for Christmas, when I I have a tree and I call it my memorial tree. And all year long, I will be out on the lookout for Christmas ornaments that kind of remind me of that person. I do that for the living, but I also started doing one for the deceased, and it started with my father. He loved to hunt. And so I started looking for deers. And my tree is full of deers. I find one every year, one that is unique, one that is different, and I put it on the memorial tree. And for my mother-in-law, kind of don't have like a lot of money, but she really loved crystal. So I purchased glass, little fake looking crystal things, and I put it on the tree in remembrance of her. And I took Tony's Christmas ornaments, all the ones that we have gathered over the years, because we just started this tradition when we had children, and I put all of his ornaments on the tree as well. And also this year, we lost my father-in-law, and he was in the Air Force. And so I found a Air Force ornament and put it on the memorial tree in honor of him. So that's a great question. What kind of things do you guys do to celebrate your loved one that has gone on to be with the Lord? Do you have anything that you do? And I see you, Bree, you said at 67, you still don't feel any closure. We're going to have to work on that. We need to be able to get you some closure, and we've got to find out what's causing you not to get that, because you got to be free, and you got to be able to walk this life and live this life to the fullest, till there's nothing left when it's time for God to come get you when he's ready for you to come home. We've got to be able to move from that. That's really good. I think journaling is good. I see Paige put on there that she write in her journal. That's good. You write about it. That's awesome. That's a great way to be able to do that. That's wonderful. Anybody else? Anybody else have some great suggestions on what they do? Taking walks in the nature and talk to his spirit. That's what I'm talking about. We have the peace room now in the back. And then in the garden, I love going out there. I feel so close to him, and I feel so close to my dad, because both of them love to walk and to be out in nature. Tony would walk, you guys know, he would walk from the house to the church. He has even walked from ITC when he was in seminary. And he walked all the way over. He was living with his cousin who lived over here off Snapfinger, and he would walk from ITC all the way back over to Snapfinger. That was a walking brother. I don't walk like that. That's too much for me. I will drive though. I will get in the car and I'll ride around and experience the beauty of the world. But he actually walked and really, I mean, he knew every crook and cranny of the city because he was always everywhere all the time. And my father stayed out in the woods during hunting season. So I feel so close to them just being out there. I see you. I see you, Dion. That's right. Your dad was a collector of frogs. So you're doing that, and I saw that. That's awesome. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. What else do we have on here? I'm just going to read some of the things you have. Piper talks about she keeps fresh flowers near her yarn weekly. That's awesome. See, these are some great things that people may not know about, they may not think about, but just things that will just help you to be able to be able to remember that person, remember that love, and that's how legacies are carried on. That's how people can do things, and traditions are formed by doing all those kinds of things. And Trachea, your family you talk about your loved ones a lot, and you remember them daily. Oh, yes. And you find their words as guidance, things they used to say. That's what I'm talking about. I sound and I say things to my kids, and they're looking and I'm like, oh, your papa used to say that, and I think that that's wonderful. We have to be able to talk about the good things. And you know what, y'all? We also need to talk about some of the bad things, because if we don't, we're going to be just like the children of Israel. And they got to a point where they didn't tell the story. And what happened? Then the sin came back in and it repeated itself. And it gets worse when it goes from generation to generation, because the generations get weaker. That's what the Bible says. And it becomes harder. So we have to tell the story. We have to talk about it. We have to talk about those things. If you have somebody who passes of cirrhosis because they drunk themselves to death, you can't turn around and try to act like they weren't an alcoholic. That's not going to help anybody. You got to be able to talk about that. We have all kind of holics. We got alcoholics, we got workaholics, we got crazy holics. We got all kinds of holics that happen, that we need to break, that we need to change, that we need to fix, that we need to correct. And what are we going to do? We can't just sit and be sad the entire time, because we could do that. And before you know it, we'll be broke down, and maybe then we might end up in God's permissive will rather than his perfect will. And he may go like, okay, let me go ahead and bring them on home because they're done. They got to stop living. And you know your loved one will not want you to stop living at all. They would want you to continue. That's why we got to talk about death, y'all. We got to talk about it, not like it's such an end of life kind of situation, but we got to talk about it so that our children, so that our siblings, so that our loved ones that we leave behind can continue to live. And I'm telling my children, I do not want you to take all of the life insurance money, get some life insurance, y'all. Put all of the life insurance money in the ground. Don't you know that it is expensive to bury somebody? If you have a $5,000 policy and you live in the wonderful city of Atlanta, that might be tight, especially if you get in there and lose your mind and start seeing all the stuff that you can do, and you want to put them away nicely. And what I want my children to do is put that money away nicely. I want them to be able to invest. I want them to be able to utilize the funds that I leave behind to propel them to the next level, to help them to be able to live a final life, to help them to be able to define. Let me tell you something about like the Kennedys. The Kennedys can be humanitarians because their mother and father set them up real nicely with trust funds and money to be able to do those things. I probably won't have that kind of funding set back for my kids, but I want them to take what I leave and to multiply it. I don't want them to put it in the ground. I don't want them spending a whole lot of money on a casket. And what I plan to do is to go ahead and take care of those services for them on behalf of them right now in the beginning while I'm living, so that they don't have to worry about that. Then they can take whatever is left when I go to be with Jesus. They can take that and they can expand their business. They can take that funding and send their children to a great school or a great college and pay for college where they don't have student loans. That's how we create wealth. Sometimes people won't share with you that that's how they were able to roll out with a new car. That's how they were able to get a car, a house. That's how they were able to get out of debt. is because their grandmama left them some cash flow. We need to start doing more of that. We need to start making sure that our children are taken care of. Because the Bible says that when we leave an inheritance for our children, that makes us a good person. And that's what we want to be. That's what we want to do. And we need to train them and teach them how to keep things and how to make sure that they manage things and build things so that they don't blow through it. Because just because you leave it for them, that doesn't mean that they're going to do right with it. You need to make sure that you train them up, teach them, show them how to manage funds, teach them how to set up life insurance for them at a young age so it's not that costly when they're young. And if you have a policy for them, let them take it over when they get grown so that they can have something and continue on. That's what we need to do. That's what we have to work on. We have to work on the emotion. We have to work on the physical. We have to work on the mental. We have to work on the spiritual. There's so many different facets that we have to do. There's so much work to be done. There are so many people that are stuck in stage 1 of grief. It feels like that person just died. It feels like that person, they're just stuck. They can't go on. They can't move forward. And you have to be able to live. You do not want to be a dead man, a dead woman walking. You just don't. You don't want to be imprisoned because your loved one would not want you to stop living at all. At all. Do we have any questions? I want to hear from you. I want to hear what's going on. Yes, Renee. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed to cry. Whenever you have to cry, don't be ashamed to laugh. Don't be ashamed to talk about your loved one. Don't be ashamed. It's hard. We all grieve. And you know what else we grieve? We grieve jobs. We grieve property. Some people have gotten put out of their homes. That's traumatic. You gotta grieve that. That's a lot. It's not just about a physical person being gone from your life. Because sometimes things are just kind of compound. They're just built, just one grief thing after the other. And people get to the end and they're just like, it's just life. Life just has been miserable to me. And we got to work on that. What have I done to move forward? I have a garden in the back. And sometimes I go back there and just dig in the dirt. That kind of grounds me. Just touching nature, it just kind of grounds me. I make all kinds of concoctions. I'm the natural herbalist over here. I'm putting concoctions together all the time. I'm making elderberry juice. I'm making ginger tinctures. I'm taking herbs. I don't even use sunscreen a lot anymore because I make this rosemary, lavender, mint body rub. And I also have a cousin that does body butter, and I use body butter, and it's just wonderful. It smells so good. If you want to know about the body butter, I'll gotta put the information up there. I should have sent it to Deontay, but Desi, if you can put in there her website for the body butter so that people can go ahead and order that, because we have everything we need, guys, in our circle to be able to get the healing that we need. We just got to trust each other. For those who are experiencing death and you're in your first year, those of us who have experienced death before, we understand, or we should understand that you may not return call, you may not feel like getting up doing something. We shouldn't take that personal. We should understand because we've been there before and it's difficult. And be there for that person as much as we possibly can. Sometimes people who've never experienced it, you can kind of understand where they might not really understand. They might feel like you're being mean or you're being rude or you're being distant, which are probably being all of that. But it comes from a different place. So we have to be able to talk about that and be available to that because it's hard. There's just no way around it. It is hard to do. Some people exercise. My daughter is the exercise queen, the general. You got to get with her. If you want to lose some weight, she is your girl. She will help you do that. She makes amazing juices. I'm going to be getting some more of her juices. Her ginger beet juice is the bomb. Got to put that up there. The general. She is amazing if that's what you want to do. We have to learn how to collaborate. There's enough room for all of us here. And we should try to live our life with minimal regret. Because let me tell you something. The devil, the enemy, is busy. He wants to make us think that we're more different than we are similar. And that is simply not the truth. My journey is not necessarily yours, but we might have some commonalities. And why do you have to rebuild the wheel? If I've already went through, bumped my head, got a black eye, lost the other eye, why do you have to go down and do the same? You don't. You really don't. All you got to do is talk. All we have to do is talk. We have to be there. We have to support each other. We have to be kind with each other. Yes, Lydia, we have to be respectful because everybody grieves differently. There's not a right, wrong way to grieve, but I don't want you to get stuck. There is such thing as getting stuck in grief. That's what we have to work on. And since I love you and we're connected, I'm not going to let you stay there. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to come get you. I'm going to call you. I'm going to say, what's up? How you doing? You're in my spirit. What's happening? Sometimes that's all that's required. That person might not pick up the phone. There were some days where I just couldn't. I was just staring off into space. I wasn't trying to ignore people. I was trying to get myself up. One of the things when my husband died, I started a brand new position in a new department at Georgia Tech. My first day back, I was like, oh my goodness, maybe I should have just stayed where I was. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I have to learn new PIs, I have to learn new projects. I just don't know if I can do it. I thought I just couldn't. But my boss was so amazing. He's a godly man. Prayed for me. The people in the office were warm. They were kind. I could tell that they didn't know what to say. I could tell that they didn't know what to do. But I couldn't help them. The chair at the time was having people come in and just talk about their future and what they wanted to do. And I can remember going in. I don't know why I still made the appointment. I probably should not have made the appointment, but I did. I made the appointment. And he asked me what was my goals. My answer, was I hope to be able to get up every morning and put one foot in front of the other. That's all I got. My goal to be a financial manager was out the window. I couldn't get beyond just getting up and just taking a bath and just being able to move forward and to talk. I had to remind myself to eat. I lost about 30 pounds. I thought I was kind of cute until some people started going like, girl, you getting kind of thin. That kind of hurt my feelings. But, they were kind of right because I wasn't eating. But it still hurt, that added insult to injury, because I was already hurting. And it wasn't like I was trying to lose weight on purpose. But when I was finally able to look into the mirror, that's when I realized that I needed to do something because I could not afford to get stuck, because I had made a commitment, I had made a promise to God when my father died and he brought me out, that I was going to handle death differently, that I was going to lean on the word of God, that I was going to mourn, but not as those who have no hope. Because that's what the Bible says, because I will see both of them again. And yes, man, Cha-Cha, grief is a monster. But when I tell you, we can chop that monster off by the head. Because we can do this thing. We can miss our loved one and we can still live all at the same time. And I know it's confusing to some people, but when you have Jesus, all things are possible. Every single thing is possible. Because one day we will see them again. And again, my journey, remember, my journey is not necessarily yours, but it might be something that can help. I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. You have made my day. I love the engagement. And I promise you on the next one, we will have more dialogue. You'll be able to speak. We will have participants where you can hear somebody's voice other than mine. And we're going to keep dropping some nuggets. And we're going to keep talking about the hard things. And we're going to get through this together. Thank you and good night. And I love you guys. And I look forward to seeing you the next time around. Now, keep this in mind. I'm a little bit different. I won't be doing it weekly. I won't be doing it monthly. But I'll send you a blast when the next one is coming out. Because we're not into quantity, but we're into quality. And we're going to have our fireside chats. I love you. Good night. And have a great rest of your evening.